All right. So we'll get this YouTube thing, live stream set up. I put the relationships is basically interpretations, but like, my co-host over here, I'm Gordon Wild from Boundaries and Brotherhood. Also gonna be known, AKA the 11th man, I think. And I got my co-host. Today's topic, it hasn't gone live yet over the inside, but I just want, oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. Today's the relationship with interpretation. Carrie, take it away while I get this all set up so we can see for our viewers, for our replay viewers, what this is going to be about in the next 20 to 40 minutes.
Oh man, life is all about interpretation. Even my relationship, every minute I'm creating my reality all based on my interpretation of the circumstances that are happening around me. And even to take that a step further, it's like I'm literally creating the circumstances around me based on my interpretation and my response to them.
I know you had a situation this week. I can tell from your posts, I can tell from a lot of things that's going on Facebook. What happened that made it so intense this week? Elaborate on that. Explain to the viewers the situation, what happened, because I'm still doing the live stream YouTube, and let's get into it.
Yeah, of course. So there's always this situation that comes up. Like if I need to go talk to my partner, there is this, I don't know, like this internal stuff that comes up. And I've never really noticed it before. But during the day, he's in his office, he's working. We have this system of, if you need me, shoot me a text message. Anyway, I happened to see him outside and I went to talk to him. And his response to me is like, "What do you need? I'm not having a good day."
Wait a minute.
I'm like,
wait a minute. He told you, what do you need? What do you want? Basically.
"What do you need? Carrie, what do you need?
Oh,
I'm not
geez,
having a
okay.
good day."
Okay.
So immediately I'm like, whoa, if I'm not spiritually fit, it's difficult to take that as it's, hey, this is not personal. This is his stuff. Right. So immediately I give him the information I'm going to give him. But what was coming up inside of me is I was just like, what a dick. Honestly, that's the first thought that comes to my head. Right. Like, what a dick. Like, why do you have to approach me that way? And it's funny because when that comes up in my body, I realize it too. And I'm like, dude, this isn't personal. Like, this has nothing to do with him. But it is just a normal, it's become such a habitual thought. Or like, why does he have to be that way? Or he's so mean. Like, there's so many thoughts that'll just kind of like spiral off after that. And it's my responsibility to catch him. I notice, though, that what happens in those instances is I may not say anything, I may not react. However, it will affect me later on in the day with my thinking. Because what will now happen is just randomly I'll start thinking about, well, he just doesn't care, right? He's shutting down. He doesn't care. There might be this thought of, oh, he's going to leave. But it just turns into all of these additional things that I'm making up. I reached out to one of my mentors and she offered, what do you really think that means? And I said, well, I know it's not him. He's letting me know, hey, I'm having a bad day. I want to let you know up front. I don't want to be harmful. But I had to sit with this and play it out in my head. And she's like, oh, yeah, so he's kind of protecting you in a way, right? I'm like, oh, my God. As soon as I was able to see that, it was just like, oh, this response, it's not like this loving, oh, let me kumbaya, give you a hug. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just
like that might be what I want, but it's still like trying to protect me from the reality that he is not having a good day. He may not be in the best mood. This is not a good time to have a conversation about anything. Right. And so it shifted from he doesn't care to being in, man, he does care. And I appreciate the fact that he cares enough to say something instead of just coming at me. I love
when that situation occurs. You told yourself, oh, he's shutting down. He doesn't care about me. He's going to leave. Did it stem from your upbringing, from your situation with your dad? And kind of like, how does that work when you reframed it? Because some of the women, some of the men, I do it too. I might be engrossed in my work. I might be on a Zoom call or doing a show, and something like this happens. Like, I don't mean it, but how do you take it, right?
Oh, man, yeah. What was interesting was when I walked away, and then I started to notice that it was affecting the way that I was thinking throughout the day. And that's actually why I got some coaching on it, because I was like, well, I can continue to allow this thinking to go down this downward spiral, or I can just call somebody and get it cut off at the pass. You know what I mean? Like, I need a coach. I need somebody to support me. So anyway, I reached out and I was like, okay, this is what happened. I have identified what it reminds me of. It reminds me of when I was a little girl, go into my dad's office, and he would be way too busy to hold space for me, to notice me, to have a conversation with me. And he would kind of like get me out, like dismiss me. And so I made this mean that I was being dismissed and that he didn't care. And all of that emotion and all of that stuff came up. Now, if I really want to go deeper, I can say, well, looking back then, my dad was even trying to protect me from himself. But as a little girl, you process information differently.
Correct. It's that would be kind of late, because as guys, right, we might not mean to do it that way, but we might be just so engrossed in work. But your reframing of it, because it stemmed up from like when your dad did it, all of a sudden you kind of like backed up, like, whoa, those bad feelings just came back and it kind of over flooded you, right?
Yeah, and like my body had like a specific reaction, and it was just like, oh my God, what just happened? But knowing what I know, it's like, okay, it's not personal, it's not him. Let me go figure this out. And one thing I noticed too is like, if I don't seek clarity in that moment, I recognized it, but I didn't really seek some clarity. It was like, I noticed later in the day, like it is going to affect the way that I think about everything. It's going to affect my perspective throughout the day. It just is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So just noticing things like that. I think it's so funny. I'm like, man, every day is just like a notice moment of something coming up. It's like I'm learning every day. I always want to make sure that I'm a student.
Of course. I mean, that's what makes you who you are today, because what you've been through in the past. How are you interpreting what your mentor told you about that situation? How did your coach shift that belief system for you to understand? That's interesting.
She brought me back to, if everything really is neutral, how would you respond? And I was like,
that's true.
That everything's neutral. Let's look at it for what it really is. He was protecting you from him because he couldn't emotionally have a conversation with you in that moment. And I was like, oh,
yes.
So I went from frustrated to neutral and then to appreciation. So it was like this little process.
Yep. You shifted gears, basically. It's like you shifted gears. You went from full on overdrive, you got into neutral, and you put it in reverse, and you said, okay, let me see. And then your coach was absolutely right, because until you learn how to kind of like fulfill that, you know what I mean? You can control your nervous system. You can control how you felt rejected in that incident, because a lot of the times some of the stuff might not even matter in a situation like that. It might not even matter because it was a bad time. He could have been intense in a deposition. He could be doing something in his work that could be going on with what's going on in the world right now, because it's so much uncertainty, right? Decades later that you're going through this. How do you feel about that? Knowing that you caught it in an instant rather than you just blew up.
Oh my God. I was just like, this is fucking progress. Like, but I mean, mega progress, because you have known me for years. But yeah, it was just like very, man, I'm appreciative, and it allowed me to sit with myself and celebrate myself for, holy shit, Carrie, you've come so far, and being able to like neutralize that moment and realize too that the feelings, the emotions, the physical reactions that come up in my body are not the reality of what's happening. It's just a reaction to an interpretation that I'm assigning that given moment.
Let me ask you this one secret, okay? Have you mastered the part where you catching yourself yet? Or do you still need to have your coach to reach out?
I do catch myself.
That's a good thing.
This particular one, I felt so triggered. And it was because I hadn't really identified what it was in that moment. I was just kind of like, I felt myself starting to get stuck on this idea of he doesn't care, even though I have evidence to prove the opposite of how he shows up. I have all of this evidence to prove opposite, but I just noticed my mind kept going that direction. I'm like, okay, I know this isn't it. And because everything comes back to me. So where is it that I don't care? Where am I not showing my self-care? Where am I neglecting me? Where am I dismissing me? So I started to go down that route because he's a mirror, right? He is just mirroring to me how I'm feeling about myself. So I really got to get honest with myself and see where I was not giving myself the attention or dismissing myself and saying that my feelings and emotions don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, because they do matter. It's just, where does it come from? Like, I learned something a long time ago that, in fact, I did one of my courses about how I created this one piece of paper that can change your action and your beliefs. Me and Mikey went through this whole thing before, but using your values, your core attitudes, your core things that you believe in, and it comes from belief. Let me ask you a question, Carrie. Where do your behaviors come from, or which comes first? Now that you have so much training, your emotions, your beliefs, or your actions?
Ooh. So I feel the emotion shoot through the body. Well, it's so quick. The thought,
Right.
the
Right.
feeling, and then there's either a reaction or a response. Depending on how spiritually fit I am in that moment. But yeah, it's like, because the thought is associated with something from my past, right? Like, so there's going to be some kind of circumstance. The thought's going to go through my head. I'm going to give it an interpretation, and then the feeling's going to shoot through my body. And it's just like, it happens so quickly.
Always.
I'm not perfect at it, but
Of course.
It really is learning to, and I don't know, I wouldn't want to say control your emotions. It's learning to manage your emotions.
True, so true. But I'm gonna give you a secret. I'm gonna give you the secret that changed my life forever. And then it's gonna be this, right? Until one of my therapists, counselors, coach, what you want to call it, back in the day, said he tricked me that way, because what comes first before your emotions is your belief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your belief of whatever happened to you in the past. Like, say you're in a situation with your dad, you had a belief, so it's already just, it's regurgitating yourself into Abel right now in that situation. Mm-hmm. Your belief starts, oh, he's treating me like this, right? Your emotions. Once you change that belief and you reframe it, you look it through a different window, your whole world opens up because you change your emotions. Once that emotion gets changed, you change actually your attitude. Once you change that attitude, you change your behavior. Once you change that behavior, you change the way you look and do things that affects other people, which in turn changes your goals in life, right? Now, the hard part, changing those beliefs, because that's where it takes a lot of time to self-reflect, meditate, do the things that you would normally not do, but then you can sit down and say, what if I change my thought on this? I just had the conversation with Doc, right? Doc said, we can have two mailmen. One got bitten by a dog, one had dogs. Who's going to run away from the dog when it jumps the fence? One is going to go pet it, not going to show fear, going to be confident, going to be calm. The other is going to take off, and the dog is going to run because that's where he's seeking attention. Mm-hmm. So the hardest part is becoming that postman that believes that nothing's going to hurt. The dog is not going to hurt you because not everything is bad. But, something went off in your head. What happened?
Oh my God. It was just, so I'm doing a lot of work around my mom.
Oh, okay. Talk about that one.
As you just said that, what really landed for me was my mother and I have two different perspectives when it comes to relationships. My mother she had an amazing relationship with her father. She used to tell me that her and my grandfather, she's like, your grandpa, he was my best friend. I would tell him everything. We would talk all the time. And I'm like, that's fucking weird. Like, why would you tell your dad?
Two different beliefs.
Two different perspectives. She went into relationship with my dad and got married. It was easy for her to trust and communicate with him in that way because she had already set up. That was what she was taught when she was younger. Yes. When you just said that, a total light bulb went off, and I was like, oh yeah, my dad and I did not have that type of relationship when I was younger.
You brought up a different belief.
Absolutely. And then my belief, because he left, then I was like, oh, well, don't trust, right? Now going into relationship, I enter the relationship with this lack of trust. I have to hold on into this protective place, right?
Correct.
So Yeah, that was just really interesting that just popped up in my head.
Because if you can, because this what changed everything for me. Because we're human. We have emotions, we have beliefs, we have situations, we have perspectives, we got experiences, we have things that happen to us, and you formed a perspective, an opinion. But your opinion is not always right. In relationships, in being wrong, now the full spectrum, this is why some people go into, like Mikey with NLP, you got therapists, you got doc, people want to do physical activity, they got the Gaia, they got faith, all this stuff goes into some sort of thing, but it all is going to come down to what is the belief and how you change that behavior, because that behavior will change your projection.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. That thing will change that projection. Once you figure it out, you start to think back, like, how much shit did I blow up before?
Yeah. and it's funny because it's the reality that I'm creating. No one else is really participating in it. It's just me, because all day long I'm so focused on, for example, and I'm just going to use my mom and I as example, trusting her husband, right? Like, that was easy for her to trust, communicate with her husband, because that was the type of relationship she had with her dad. Plus she allowed her husband to lead her.
Right.
I was like, I don't trust, because you'll probably leave.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. I don't trust, you'll probably leave. So let me go ahead and lead myself, because you're probably not going to be there anyway. So do you see, like, it's
you made excuses also.
Absolutely.
Ooh. Now, that's so interesting, because so how did you are you still in the process of curing all those perspectives?
It gets better,
different interpretations.
And it gets easier, like, and I periodically will say this to Abel, where it's like, okay, I moved in, and a year later I still had boxes unpacked. One weekend I went up to him and I'm like, my nervous system and I have decided that we're okay to unpack more boxes. A year later. And so it's really like releasing this level of control, recognizing that this man is not here to hurt me, right? That's the belief. He's going to hurt me, he's going to leave, right? And so if that's the belief leading, I'm going to create that.
You're creating that.
Correct.
You are. Out of thin air.
Out of thin air. Absolutely. It has nothing to do with him. And so it really is about focusing, oh my God, how does he really, and it's just shifting the focus. Like, something so simple like that makes the biggest difference, because if I start to just pay attention to all the ways he shows up for me and be in appreciation, that energy is so different. Lately, I've really been reflecting on, I've had multiple conversations in my past with random couples that I was friends with. And what's been coming up in the work that I'm currently doing, I could never understand why these women would want to do things for their husbands. I know this sounds crazy, Gordon. Gordon, stay with me.
Repeat that before I lose my train of thought. You couldn't figure out why
they wanted to do for their husbands, because I was in this level of, like, disdain in a way for men, because in my mind, they're trying to hurt you. That was the belief. So if I'm always in this state where I think that men are misbehaving and trying to hurt me all the time, how am I showing up in a relationship? I don't want to do shit for you. You know what I mean?
You never would. Why would you?
Exactly.
Why would you? I mean, why would you?
And it really has been about, like, softening into, and I know this is so, it's funny because some people are like, softening, how do I do that, into my femininity? And it's like, really what's been coming up for me lately is I really want to be of service to him. Oh, yeah. But it's interesting because I realized how I never wanted to be in service in any of my relationships to my partner. Of course it didn't work out. That's a that's a taker.
But then again, too, it's because of the person you were before. Everything was a take type of thing. Everything was, and if it didn't go your way, you knew something was wrong. Now let me ask you this. Because we could go into that all day long, right? How deep do those things run? Those beliefs? Like, is it because you were in the life, because of the physicality? Is it because the turmoil? Was it because of trauma?
That everything touches everything. And I was so attached to that old belief system that men were always misbehaving. They were always going to hurt me. And as long as I live my life based on that, I could never truly have a good friendship or even a relationship with a man because there's always an underlying distrust. And,
Correct.
And let's talk about Michael. I want to go there because Michael was my very first coach and he was a man. And I got to tell you, like, I am so unbelievably grateful. Oh my God, you have no idea, Gordon, because he was just like the kindest, most patient man, because he knew my story.
He knew the situation.
Back then, I didn't really appreciate how he was showing up for me because there was still that level of distrust.
You still had that.
Oh man, yeah. And I was making up all kinds of crazy stories in my head. And it's so great because like all of these years later, like I came back to doing more work with him, like a lot of NLP work. And that's what I do with my clients.
Absolutely.
So, and him and his wife are just like two amazing people. But like, I felt like he set the standard of what a healthy masculine man could look like in just like a friendship and a coaching relationship. And I had never experienced that before.
I see. Because it's not always, it's like, how would I say, you got to see a different side of masculinity that just didn't want nothing from you.
Yeah.
And it helps because it's different because they can tell you the truth. They can be kind. There's no underlying factors because it would be wrong to take advantage of situations like that where it's like in fact, when Angela went to leave to this, is like, you mean I told her this is going to be the topics. This is what we're going to talk about. And it's so good because now you know what was broke and you mended the broken pieces and it's still usable. Even today, I got to go talk at the Real Talk Youth. It's not because you were broken. You were still trying to find yourself. You were still trying to find the pieces. Why this is happening? Why am I this way? Versus, now let me ask you this. The big word that you said was, you're now here to serve, right? Abel, you might thank me for this one day, right? Okay? What are the things that you see because that makes you want to serve with your partner? Why do you want to serve to that capacity?
And I think it really is about shifting. It was about shifting the perspective of what am I focused on? Well, let me focus on how he shows up to the relationship because the reality is he's setting the tone by showing up for me.
Okay.
And to take it even a step further is he shows up for his friends and for his family. That's very, very important to him. And for me, it was as me being a lone wolf all the time. I was always doing everything on my own. And I was like, what do you mean you want to go spend time with your family? Like, what do you mean you want to go hang out? Because
you don't know that's foreign to you.
That's foreign. And I didn't really have, I had some friends, but we didn't hang out all the time because there's always this underlying lack of trust.
And trusting. Yeah, that trusting is
But
good.
it's lack of trust of myself, of that I'm not choosing correctly. But it's really just watching him, like the way he shows up for his parents. He's very big on, hey, Carrie, we get to spend time with your family. Like family was never really a big thing for me until I met him. And it was like, hey, we're spending a lot of time with his family. And then he would be like, hey, let's go to Florida and spend time with your family. The ways that he thinks about his son, this thoughtfulness of something that he might need. He does the same thing for me. Creating, like, I love flowers. And he just totally redesigned the yard, the front and the backyard with flowers. And I mean, it really is beautiful. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like he's all about creating experiences. So anytime we go to do something
nice,
it's like, he is like putting 1,000% in of, I want to create the best experience for every single person that's here, not just for me, for every single person that's here.
You don't even know it because it's subconsciously he's doing that. And I guess he's an overachiever also.
Yeah. I've seen this.
I know the type, Carrie. I know the type. But that makes sense because now you see, it's like having two people, right? Two people might have broken families. They get together. they conquer the world, right? Because they didn't have nothing much from their upbringing. In your case, you had one piece. He has what you craved that you didn't even know it. I have the same situation with my second daughter's mom, that I craved that, where I didn't know about family. I didn't know about family dinners. I didn't know you sit at the table at Sunday, you talk about your day. I didn't know about this is what you do. But I mean, the bad part is it all blew up in my face also at the end of it all. That's another story to tell. But because you're enamored by it, you know what I mean? It makes you being that whole person, and he completes completes what you're after. Because it's deep. He gave you trust. He gave you a belonging. He gives you stability. And you know damn well he's not going to go nowhere. Right? Unless you hit the nuclear button. But you've learned to control all of that now. You've learned to face those evil things coming into your head. And you mean, like I said, for all the women out here, this stuff that Carrie does help, because she's walking, living proof. And she also has a coach of her own also, right? Because when you want something so bad enough, you got to find ways to fix yourself, right? Because if you don't, you keep repeating that cycle. We went through a lot of stuff that, how is the commitment that you give into Abel versus your other relationships? That's interesting.
So, yeah, that is interesting. There was a level of commitment in past relationships, but the level of commitment was, I'll be here as long as you act the way I want you to act, which again is subject to interpretation, right?
I was like, whoa.
It's subject. So,
whoa.
And so, essentially what would always happen is I would blow it up, because my interpretation was that, again, men are misbehaving and they're out to hurt me, right? That was the reality. And I would continually create that. And then I would just be like, oh my God, I can't be here anymore. But really what was unhealthy was the way that I was thinking about it was my perspective of the world. If I believe that everybody in the world is out to get me, then that's what I'm constantly going to create. I'm going to blow up relationships.
Correct.
And be alone.
When did you start to realize that being alone, because there's a big topic of lonely women right now. At a certain age, they hit the wall, they call it, whatever. And I know you've been in that of life at one time. How does it feel knowing you're never going to be alone anymore?
Well, I think it was always, when it went back to, you're never alone. Even if you are physically by yourself, it really was,
okay.
That piece. It was most important for me to realize that there was something greater than me. If I could just trust that part of me. There was a book I read called I Am. It just really about connecting me with God. I am God, essentially. We're one. And that began to shift a lot of things. Also, I knew that how I was showing up in relationships wasn't working. And so I started attending classes or courses. If something kind of showed up for me where I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me learn about how men think and women think. It never occurred to me that we think differently. What do you mean? Then I realized, oh my God, we think differently, we act differently. We are completely different the way that we process information.
Yes.
And it's like we speak two different languages. And when I really started to lean into that part and learning, okay, we speak two different languages. How can we communicate effectively? We both come with our own set of hurts and interpretations of the world. And so it's just like, whoa, it's almost like I used to think, this is set up as a disaster. Nobody's supposed to be together.
It's not
This is fucking crazy. But coming from responsibility, and I think that's the thing that keeps connecting me back is if I'm responsible for it all, because that's how that's how I interpret it. If I'm responsible for it all, how can I show up today? Who can I be today to enact some type of change or shift in the relationship, shift in my perspective that I can now change my reality?
Let me ask you this. What do you think is Abel's love language?
Acts of service. Oh, 1,000%.
But see, that's why you serve.
Yes. So, but okay. So I got to tell you this.
Okay.
Years and years ago, somebody told me, read the five love languages. And I read that book and I was like, this is the dumbest shit I ever heard, but that's always my initial reaction. It's the dumbest shit I ever heard. The fuck? Like, why do I need to speak your language? Why can't you just learn mine? And then I didn't understand. I'm like, how do I know somebody's love language? Well, typically their love language is the way that they show up for you, right? But it took me a really long time to figure that out. I realized that he loves to serve because that's how he shows up for everybody, is in service. Even when we go down to visit my family, before we go somewhere with my dad, he's already thinking of, okay, if we're going to this restaurant with Carrie's dad, are they going to have his gluten-free options? Are they going to, do we need to stop anywhere? Make sure that he needs anything.
Detailed, huh?
Oh, he's so detailed.
Well, he's an attorney, so he has to be. That's just part of the behavior.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I've never experienced that before. At first, I thought, this is weird. He does the same thing with his mother. And for me, I thought, wow, this is really like, you're trying to parent these people. And then I was like, oh no, it's him. He just wants to show up and be of service.
Did he get that from his parents, do you think? You haven't been interacting with them?
His mother is in service to her church all the time. Her spirituality is so important to her. She goes to mass every single day. I think she came over here from another country and brought her whole family. So there is this whole level of being of service to everyone.
Yeah, faith.
Catholic. Yeah.
So, I mean, you gravitate to that also because now you have structured values related to the faith, right? The same like my mother-in-law is dedicated Mormon. I mean, Andrew's LDS. You know what I mean? At one point, my two kids are baptized LDS, but you wouldn't think so. Now, how does that shift from you being external with your givings to now serving all the time or finding that balance?
So,
this is the best stuff yet.
I had this misconception too in the beginning when I was like, I'm going to be of service and I'm going to expect this huge response from him, right?
But don't. That's what you thought.
I'm expecting him to be like in such gratitude and appreciation, right? And in fact, I got to tell you, Gordon, when I sometimes when I do things for him, depending, it's kind of like there's this shock, right? Like,
from him?
Who the fuck are you? Who is this person? Depending on what it is. Because of how I showed up I showed up as alpha male in the very beginning.
I mean, because that's what you were in the past.
Yeah.
I mean that sometimes the old Carrie comes out and that alpha masculine, determined, strong, independent, feminist, activist type woman comes out. I'm gonna get this shit done on my own. And he was like, whoa.
Yes.
Then the soft side, but the soft side comes out where you can be actually the little girl that you always wanted to be at the same time now.
Yes. And there's a freedom in that.
Yeah,
so
yes.
When the other day when I created the new interpretation of, oh my God, this whole moment of him saying, what do you need? I'm having a bad day. Like,
yes,
I reinterpreted this into he's protecting me. Such a
liberating.
Freedom. Oh my God. I felt like I lost 50 pounds. And like, I just suddenly felt like all of this heaviness like melt off of me. And I'm like, oh, man, I've been carrying this for such a long time.
Are you seeing some of this in some of your clients?
Oh, absolutely. They're mirrors of me. Of course. Yeah, they absolutely are mirrors of me. And they say a lot of the same things I say too. It's just like, how do you just turn it off? Like, how can you just be be feminine? Like, I did this thing and I did this, and I'm like, it's not about the doing. It really is about connecting emotionally to that part of you. And the way that I do that is create a new way of thinking, a new neuro pathway, a new interpretation, right? When I can release myself from that old belief system that is so ingrained and realize that it served a purpose for a period of time. Thank you, but I get to release you. You get to go away. You're not serving me any longer.
And that's a really good feeling, because once you let go of that baggage, And that's a good topic, because the interpretation of the baggage that you have, that you've been carrying for so long, to be able to be liberating from that, from having a partner that understands and has patience. But, it's good because at the same time, it makes you the person that wants to serve not just him, but other people that's around.
Yes. Yeah.
It changes your behaviors.
And I think too, and this is another thing that used to come up for me, was I get to be the most important person. The fuck is I get to be the most important person in your life? Is that really true? I mean, essentially, the most important person should be me. I get to be for myself the most important person. I get to take care of myself first so that I can serve. The truth that really came up for me was, well, if I am not in service to other people, how can I be in service to my partner? Because everything touches everything. And so it's just like, I remember I used to get so upset when any of my boyfriends would notice another girl, right? Like, oh my God, you think that she's beautiful? Like, how dare you? But, dude. And later on, I realized, I was like, oh my God, if men don't appreciate beauty, they'll never see the beauty in me.
True. But also that beauty, that the beauty has to come from the inside out.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a physical attraction. It was like, it goes for me too. It's just like, if I'm not noticing all the beautiful things that are happening in my life, then I'm not going to see the beautiful things that are happening in your life or with you. I'm going to be in this space of judging you because I'm really judging me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, looking at it from that perspective, it was just kind of like, oh, wow, like, I get to be in appreciation of everything around me and look at everything as just like a beautiful compliment to my life. Like, that's the perspective that I get to have today.
That's huge. I mean, that's really good. In fact, man, we're gonna have to end on that one. All right, I
don't even know what time it is.
We were about 45 minutes and in a blink of an eye, having too much fun. But I just wanted to end with this. Join us next week, Thursday, 10 o'clock. Next week, Tuesday, 10 o'clock, same time. Boundaries and Brotherhood with Carrie Baluru, with Worthy as AF. Carrie, where can you reach you at?
On Instagram at Carrie Polero.
And we're going to end that right there. Let me press this pause. Boop. Guys, Gordon Watt. I'll see you. Aloha.